Welcome everyone to the First State Football Club Art of Coaching event on developing young talent. We are Delaware soccer team, and we are proud to be part of the National Premier Soccer League. Uh, our team values are courage, perseverance, integrity, and community. We invited you to be here at the beginning of building this, and we're real glad you're here. Sponsorship is also an important part of our community. And as you can see there on the left, we're very proud to have Inc. Now as one of our sponsors. All right. We invited you here today because if we're going to bring to Delaware the highest quality of soccer, we have to develop a great soccer community to support them. That means coaches, staff, community leaders, sponsors, and many, many more. All right. We have for you today two leading experts in the world that you can learn from to help start all of us on this path. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to learn from people who've done it. All right. Want to tell you a little bit about all of you that we've invited here today. Well, we invited 300 Division I and II soccer coaches from throughout Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland. We invited a soccer and sports media, NPSL staff, as well as the league staff, as well as the staff from some of our rival teams. We invited our sponsors. We invited players, volunteers, and community leaders. And we also opened it up to the leaders of the Delaware Youth Soccer Association. And I'll be talking about a food drive we're doing with them. So all of you are playing a key role in helping us build the community, culture, and traditions. And so what I'd like to do here, if I may, is start out with just a little poll for you all to tell us and the attendees, tell us what your role is. How do you see yourself supporting the soccer community? Is it a coach, as a player? All right, we'll give that a minute or two.
Chibza on here as well. Chibza. Coach Chibza.
I'm looking. Yep. Give it another second. All right. Well, we've got some media, some players, fans, staff, coaches. Okay, thought it'd be a good way to get started. All right, thank you all for doing that. So, mental health, to me, I wanted to start, mental health is always an important issue. And to me, it's one that we need to take seriously, and it's always worthy of discussion. We have with us today Dr. Joel Fish, who's the director of the Center for Sports Psychology here in Philadelphia. He's a nationally recognized expert in sports psychology who's worked in the field for the past 20 years. He's worked extensively with athletes of all ages and skill levels, from youth through Olympic folks. So I asked him to just give us a couple of minutes on what I think is a vitally important subject. So take it away, Dr. Fish.
Thank you, Don. And thanks for including me. Thanks for putting me on such an esteemed panel here. And what a time to talk about mental health. And when I talk about mental health, I mean the emotions. And as a sports psychologist and as a licensed psychologist, I always look at working with athletes of all ages and skill levels, from little kids to the Olympic and professional ranks. Solid mind, solid body, they're all connected. And certainly with the times we're living in right now, it's been a perfect storm for a lot of emotions to be brewed. So great time for us as coaches, as people involved in sport, to take a look at what we can do in terms of developing players, developing ourselves when it comes to the mental part of the game and the emotional part of the game. And to me, there are a couple things that I really would like to say as steps in this time of a pandemic, in this time where we're not sure how the present conditions are how long they're going to last. And we're not sure what sport looks like during the next 6 months, 12 months. So when it comes to mental health, for the players who are on the line here, for the coaches that are on the line to hear, to me, there are 4 steps that we really need to keep in mind. Step 1, self-awareness. What am I feeling as a coach? What am I thinking as an authority figure? Where's my own anxiety level? Where's my stress level? And the assistants on the line here are working with the coaches. Let's give each other permission to give one another feedback. Hey, are you aware you're being a little sterner with one player than another? Are you aware that your body language isn't necessarily communicating the same things as your words? I'm not a very good actor, but I was in a very, very high level basketball situation recently. And I hope this translates okay, where the coach at halftime went in there and said to his players, super well-intentioned coach, great well-intentioned players, the conversation went something like this. Guys, you got to have fun out there. You got to have fun out there. Well, what do you think the players were saying to me afterwards? Man, coach is really uptight. So important for us, 3-4 times a training session, a game. What am I feeling? What am I thinking? And as coaches, assistants to coaches, let's give each other feedback. That's step 1. Step 2, and I would say this under any environment, but certainly in this age of COVID, where there's a lot of raw emotions up there, let's normalize feelings of anxiety, stress. Welcome to the club, team. Let's talk about it. And whether coaches are communicating it subtly or not so subtly, we have to be careful in any way, shape, or form of communicating anxiety, stress as being soft. It's the number 1 term which players don't want to be labeled, which is soft. Welcome to the club, because of my goal as a sports psychologist. Anxiety, stress is not the enemy. It's not the bully. We all feel it. Welcome to the club. All of us, part of our player development, personal development, are learning ways to manage that emotion just a little bit better. I'd never say to anybody, don't feel anxious, don't feel stressed, but what are the patterns? What are the situations? What can I do? What can I say to manage it? Because I can show you documentation up to the ceiling. If we can manage our own stress, a player's stress, a teammate's stress, 3 or 5%, no matter what our personalities are, that's the mental edge. So that's step 2, just normalizing it. Step 3, I think, in my work in sports psychology with the teams I work with, it's just giving players certain criteria by which to assess their teammates. Maybe going down a road, their teammates, their brothers, their sisters, their friends, that they may not want to be going down with anxiety, stress, where it could lead to some further issues. 20 people and all the teams represented at the leagues we're talking about right now, little kids through the Olympic and professional ranks, said, how do I know whether one of my teammates is going down the wrong road with anxiety, stress, substance issues? So let's pass criteria out. So for example, substance issue, big issue, every age, every level. I just give my players criteria. Do they know someone who has a definite pattern of drinking? They used to drink every Saturday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. You could punch a clock to it, it's so regular. Do they know someone where there's been an increase in the pattern of drinking? It used to be 2 cans of beer, now it's a 6-pack. Used to be a 6-pack, now it's 6-pack and hard liquor. Do they know someone who's had a significant drop in something that's really meaningful to them? Their teammate, their brother, sister, grades drop for you school-age coaches, performance on the field drops, they break up with an important relationship. Do they know someone in season or out of season where they wonder, could that person go 2 weeks without taking any kind of alcohol? Most people can be thinking of a teammate or a friend. And finally, the way it comes to me in sports psychology is so-and-so just isn't himself, herself anymore. So if you can check off yes, 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 teammate, friend, colleague, now we've got a choice. We can either avoid talking about it, which was what a lot of athletes do, or without banging our head against the wall, raising it once or twice, having the courage to say something to our teammate and our friend. And the final step is learning how to have difficult conversations, because 20 people that I knew last year and all the different levels of teams represented here said, well, I knew my teammate, colleague, brother, sister was going down the wrong road. Anxiety, stress, moods, depression, alcohol, substance, but I just didn't know what to say. And I don't buy that anymore. I think we know what to say. It takes a lot of courage to say it, but in sports psychology, we teach what we call the 5 I's of having difficult conversations. Using alcohol as an example, I see is the first I. I see you picking up that 2nd, 3rd, 4th can of beer. I hear what you're saying. That's the pushback part. A lot of times people aren't ready for you to say, hey, I see you picking up that 3rd, 4th beer. So I hear what you're saying. There's going to be resistance. Who are you to be telling me what to do? sometimes might be the response. I see, I hear, I feel, I'm you again. I feel upset what you're doing yourself, someone else. I feel upset. We've got rules on this team. I see, I hear, I feel. I want you to put that down. I want you to leave him. I want you to leave her. I see, I hear, I feel, I want, I will help you out of this situation. I will get a teammate to help us out of this situation. I will tell the coach if I need to. I will tell the league administrator if I need to. Now we're getting to the nitty gritty of family, teamwork, which is learning how to celebrate together, but also learning how to have difficult conversations, which I think is really important, is a skill building part of player and team development during the kind of uncertain times that we're in. Self-awareness as a coach, step one. Normalizing the feeling, step two. Criteria by which to assess someone may be going down the road. We all have a bad day, but are there patterns? So-and-so just isn't himself, herself anymore. And then the final step, how to have difficult conversations. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us in this time of uncertainty, where there's so many raw emotions, to develop as coaches, to help our players develop as leaders, to help them help one another, and to double down on what most of us have as a team culture. What is team? A team celebrates together when things are going well. A team sticks together during adversity. We may not have all the answers, but we find a way. And I believe mental health, body, mind, during these times does represent an opportunity for us to grow as coaches, for us to grow as players, for us to grow as leaders, teammates, as teams. Thank you very much, Don, for including me. My information, by the way, just obviously headline, been posting a lot of stuff on my Twitter, Dr. Joel Fish 1, if you're interested in looking at more information on this subject, my website, my email. So please feel free to contact me. Thank you for putting that book up there. I'm also very proud of the book I've written, 101 Ways to be a Terrific Sports Parent, as we get to how to deal with sports parents these days. So it's my interest and responsibility to follow up this very brief conversation today. But thank you, Don, for including me. Thank you again, all the coaches and people who are attending. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk.
Thanks, Doctor.
Thanks, Doc.
Let me see if I can make my screen move. There it is. Before I hand it over here to our keynote, I wanted to talk a little bit about community. Okay, we have, COVID is really hurting the people on the lower end of the scale. Okay, and it's important that we help our community. So we've teamed up with the Delaware Youth Soccer Association to help do a food drive. So this Saturday, we're going to be at the 76ers Field House. Bring food, okay? That we need to help our community. It's important, and it's what we're about as a team. That's all I'll say about it. Is it's part of your job is being part of our team and community is helping the people that need it. All right. So with that, it is my honor to introduce Stephen Constantine, one of the great managers in world soccer. He's going to speak to us about developing talent. Born in England, Constantine played here in the NPSL before being involved in coaching roles across 4 continents. He went on to manage national teams in Nepal, Malawi, Sudan, Rwanda, and India. He's also managed a number of professional clubs in England, Greece, and Cyprus. He's been successful in developing young talent. As a national team coach, he gave 49 players their senior national debut. He became known as a great developer of talent and one that would help maximize a player's potential. Whether you're a coach, player, whether it's national, college, or high school level, you have a lot to learn from him. So help me welcome Stephen, and we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. All right? Go ahead.
Thanks very much for the invitation. And Dr. Joel, thanks for that talk. I agree 100% with what you said, although I would say COVID gives us more of an opportunity, but we should be doing that all the year round, not just because of the COVID. So, okay, I'm going to start off with a little video. Now, can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Let me see if I can I'm going to kind of make you host. All right.
Yeah, I think you have to host disabled participant. You disabled the participant. So
I'm going to make you the host. So now you should have that sharing ability.
Okay, let's go. Okay. Okay. Just a 3-minute video, just to get people in the mood. Okay, so lovely to see England win a World Cup in my lifetime anyway. Well, be the second one. That was the under-17 World Cup that was held in India 2018. It's relevant once you see the presentation, and then obviously we'll have questions and answers later, but let's get straight into the presentation. Okay, the young footballer, as we like to call them. When does the learning begin? These questions, you can jot these down and you can answer them yourselves, and we can discuss this later. So for me, and this is for me, it starts at home. By how do we start? How do we get them to fall in love with the game, which is the most important thing? We leave soft balls around the house, in the kitchen, in the playroom, in their bedrooms, in the living room. This for me is how it will begin, and we're talking as soon as they're walking. Get them to use both feet. How do we do that? We're not coaches. It's basic hand-eye coordination. Manipulate the ball with your feet. We don't want them to kick it. Anybody can kick a ball. We want the kid to put his foot on the ball, on the sole of his foot, and start manipulating the ball, both right, both left. And it starts in the house. You don't have to be a coach to do this. You just have to understand how young people learn. Striking the right balance. And here, this for me is, I see this everywhere I go. It's all about winning. We need 3,000 kids in the academy, because if we don't have 3,000 kids, we can't pay the salaries, and so on and so forth. But at what cost? Okay. And according to Mr. Wenger, and I agree with him, there are no bad players at grassroots level, just bad coaches. Okay, and I really mean that. Some of the things I've seen over the years, coaches screaming at players, bullying them to the extent where after 3 years, 4 years, the kid doesn't want to play football anymore because he's sick of the parents screaming and shouting from the sideline. So these are a little bits of information that I've seen. Winning. So you see we have the scales, best players and biggest players. That's on one side of the scales. On the other side, we have fun, development, and the community. So we will get to the video. Why did I show you that video in the beginning? Okay, those boys that you saw were 15, 16 years old. Some of them were 17. It was the under 17 World Cup. Love the ball, love the game. In order to love the ball, you have to have touches of the ball. You know, you see some games where some of the kids touch the ball every 3 minutes. That's not enough if we're trying to get them to fall in love with the game, or even to be competent in terms of mastering the technique of the ball. I even see adult teams where the usual drill is, okay, the coach will stand on the edge of the 18-yard box. There'll be a line of players. Player A will pass to the coach will pass it back. Player A will then run on and shoot. By the time he touches the ball again, a good 3 or 4 minutes have gone past with the player standing in the line. I've seen this at senior level, never mind at youth level. So this needs to stop, or it needs to change. These are the golden years of development, and we should place the main emphasis on teaching. So my question to the coaches that are listening, what's the difference between teaching and training? Is there a difference? It's a huge difference. So you can go and put on a training session. Let's say it's a small-sided game, turning with the ball in a small-sided game. When does the teaching take place? Again, all the time. All the time. I see many coaches put on a training session, and it's exactly that. It's a training session. There's not much involvement from the coach. There's no correction. There's no explanation to the player why somebody shoots the ball over the bar. Why did it go over the bar? Not, oh, well done, better luck next time. No, that's not coaching. That's not teaching. Explain to the player why he hit the ball 6 miles over the crossbar. Try and improve it. And this is what we need to do. And I've seen it so many times, especially at the grassroots and the youth level. We are training the players, but we are not teaching the players. And unless that changes, then we're going to have pretty average players at best. So this is what we call the foundation phase, 5 to 8 years. I told you, if you have small balls in and around the house and your daughter is 2, 3 or 4 years old, they can play with those balls. We don't want them to kick it. That's the easy part. But we want them to manipulate the ball with their feet, pull it behind them, turn it, step on it, turn around with it, spin with it, all sorts of things. You encourage them, but you have to give them the license to do this, okay? Then we have phase 2, foundation, development phase. Okay, sounds a little bit, well, isn't development in foundation phase 1 and 2? Yes, of course it is. Development until they stop playing. But 12 to 16, for me, things change big time in this age group. And we will talk about that in a minute. Professional development phase and continued professional development, 21 plus. So just because you are 21 and getting £10,000 a week doesn't mean you're the finished item. You would think for that money that he would be, or she, but they're not. And you have to continue to try and improve yourself, whether you're a player or a coach. So, in possession, what do I mean by that? We're playing 5-a-side, 6-year-olds. Possession, what do we mean by possession? Of course, being in the ball, but are we talking about the player being on the ball? What about the other 4 boys or girls on his team? What do they do? we're in possession, but only one player is in possession of the ball at any one time. What are the other players doing? Same applies for when you are out of possession. Now, none of us have the ball. What are we doing? And when I say transition, I'm not talking a transitional play like we're talking at pro level. The transition of being with the ball, you yourself with the ball, then the transition of being without the ball, and none of your teammates have the ball. I hope that's making sense, but if there's any fog, we can clear it up at the end. So in possession, what do you expect from a 5 to an 8-year-old in possession? What do you expect of him out of possession? So in fun games, again, I repeat, in fun games that you can develop, there's millions of them on the internet, you can make this an enjoyable session for young players. Here, your job as coaches at this level is to make sure that the child is in love with the game before you finish with them in that session, so that they will come back. And because believe me, once they are in love with this game, it's done. It's life. Nothing is going to take it away unless they get bad coaches who are going to scream and shout at them for morning, noon, and night, and literally squeeze the love out of the game out of them. But this is on us and the coaches. So we'll go to the next part. What should be learned? This is in my humble opinion. Manipulating the ball with both feet. I'll say it now. I'll probably say it a few more times as well. That's not kicking the ball. That's not juggling with the ball. That's using the sole of the foot, the inside of the foot, the outside of the foot, walking around the house. I've broken a few windows when I was a kid with a tennis ball. I used to play a lot with a tennis ball. So that's also really good. Spatial awareness on and off the ball. What I mean by that. So we're in a possession situation where we have the ball. So you're going to explain to the players, how can we help the person on the ball? If I come close, does that help? Maybe. If I open out, does that help? Maybe, depending on where the other person is. So I'm pretty sure that everybody listening to this, you know this, but I'm not sure if everybody who knows this is teaching this. And I mean on a regular basis. I don't mean once in a blue moon. Okay? So developing technique. Again, through these little drills, and these are not drills, by the way, but through these suggestions, you will be developing the technique with the ball, without the ball. Again, with the ball, and I don't have the ball, but none of us have the ball. Without the ball or with the ball, we all have the ball. No, one of us has the ball. So we really have to think about that and explain this to the player. What do? I don't have the ball. Go and get it. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe you don't need to go and get it. Maybe you need to just move a little bit to the side where your friend can see you pass the ball. And okay, sorry if I'm sounding a little, this is for me basic things that we should be doing. Okay. Once we get to 11, it becomes 11 years old, 12 years old. I don't know how it is in the US, but we're 11 versus 11 at this point. Okay. For me, we're 11 versus 11. So now you're going from a 60 by 40 or a slightly bigger pitch to play at 9-a-side now to a full pitch, 11-a-side. How do they understand what is being part of a team if they go from 6 to 7 or 9 from 9s to 11s? That needs to be explained. 11 versus 11. Still got to be fun. They still got to be loving that. They still got to, there needs to be the fun in the game. There is fun in the game, even at my time. I'm still having fun playing this game. So it needs to be fun for kids. You don't want kids coming to training, not wanting to come, or being forced to come. This is not good. Here's what should be understood in my explanations. adapting to the bigger pitch, more players. What is the role? What is your role now? My role has changed from 6-a-side. Now I'm playing 11-a-side. What's my job? What am I supposed to do? As Bill Belichick likes to say, know your job. Actually, he says do your job. But I would say first you've got to know your job before you can do your job. Begin to understand the systems. What system are we playing? 4-3-3, 3-4-3, 4-5-1, 4-4-2. What's my role within this system? In this 11, 12 years old, this is where this begins. Okay? How many of you have sat the kids down and explained the rules of the game? How many of you have called a local referee in while you are practicing so that the referee could practice and the kids could be exposed to having a local referee actually referee their free play game, which is at the end of the practice, 11 versus 11. I'm pretty sure most of you don't sit down and explain all the rules to them. You think that they know it. They have senior players who don't know some of the rules. Important rules of the game. So, positional play. Now it starts to get a bit serious. So we had, when I was at Bournemouth Academy, I was responsible for everything under 16. What we used to do to the 15s and 16s, because now it's 15 in England, it's critical because 16, they could be offered scholarships, 16 to 19, first year pro as they call them. So they could be offered positions. But we would change their position every 3 months. So we had one lad, very, very good player, centre midfield. We played him at centre half for 3 months. And then in 3 months, we moved him. And so in the year, he would have played 3 or 4 different positions, thereby having an understanding of the whole game and different positions. So I can hear some of you saying, yeah, but aren't you going to confuse him like that? No, we're not, because he will gravitate to a position. This kid was an attacking midfield player, but we played him at centre half, for example. Now, when he got the ball, he didn't want to get rid of it as soon as. He would bring the ball out. He was calm. He'd pass it out. Now, is he going to be a centre half? No, but he will understand what goes into being a centre half. He will understand how sometimes he can't play the ball out of the back, how other times he'll have to be quick. So it's just giving the kids the opportunity to experience other positions. Probably the only position we wouldn't do would be the goalkeepers, but giving them the opportunity to see other positions. And like I said before, they generally gravitate, and by the time they're 15, 16, you know they're going to be in this position. But they can adapt and play in other positions, down to 10 men. Players got sick, somebody can't play, go in there, play that position. I know you can, I've seen you do it. Why? We've trained it. So I hope that makes sense. Decisions. Believe it or not, between 12 and 16, the decisions are important, especially if you want to get on the ladder. You want scholarships or you want professional soccer. Your decisions are going to define you. Ensure there is development at all times. What is my role? What is my job? Do my job. Take responsibility for your job. Again, we are talking to young players. Do they get it the first time? Sometimes no. Will they make mistakes? Absolutely. How do we deal with that mistake? How do you deal with a mistake a player's made in the game that's cost you the game? We've lost the game, we've lost the title, 13 years old, and you're screaming and shouting from the sideline. No one cares. No one cares if you win the under-12 championship, only you. Okay, the parents, maybe the coach gets his name in the paper 5 minutes. But that's not why you're doing this, surely. You're not doing this to win the under 12 or under 13 championship. Please tell me that's not the case. Because if you are, then you're in the wrong job. Competition. 12, 13, 14, it starts to be a little competitive, okay? Because people are now starting to see, oh, maybe this guy's going to play for the US national team at 12. Can you see that at 12? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. I won't say anything, but we will go on. 17 to 21. This is the business end. Playing under pressure. Every training session, you're under pressure. Why? Because you need to play. Why do you need to play? Because you need that contract. Because if you don't get that contract, you're out. Mental toughness. Doc, I'm sure you can attest to some of this. The stress and the pressure that the kids are already under, because you would think that 95% of them actually want to do well. Would you argue with that? Okay. I would then say to you, what about the pressure from the parents who think they have the new Lionel Messi or Ronaldo? And it's not just a problem in one particular country. This is everywhere. Okay. Parents see their kids, they start to see a bit of talent. I can't tell you the number of calls I get. Coach, come and have a look at this player. Coach, what do you think? Will he make it? How old is he? 8. No, well, I think he's got a bit of time. But at this age, 17 to 21, there really is a lot of pressure from the player himself wanting to do well, from his mum and dad, probably. Some of them want them to be professionals, and the player may not want to be a professional because they think they're going to solve their financial problems if the kid ends up in the MLS or even better in the European League. So, off the field distractions. These will start way before this, but let's say it starts to get really serious at this age. Girls, cars, Doc touched on it before, alcohol, substance abuse. And now in today's society, there are so many distractions for these young players. Now you saw the England under 17. I won't give you the names, but 2 of those players were on £30,000 a week. A week. 2 of those players in those highlights that you saw for England were on £30,000 a week. I don't know, but I think that's quite a lot of pressure to deal with at 16. It's not personal, it's business. This really is the business end. And I was speaking to somebody today and they were asking me, they have a 15-year-old son and he's hoping to go to England for trials next year. What can he expect? I said, unarmed combat. They don't care. Can you play? That's all they care about. Can you play? Can you deal with being kicked? Can you deal with bad decisions? Can you deal with it's pouring down with rain and somebody is trying to kick you off the ball? And that's why that video is, we are starting from grassroots and growing, but that's where it begins for them, obviously at that level. So everything you do matters on and off the pitch. It really does. It really does. It matters to the coaches. You've got to be very, very careful. But all of this should be explained. You've got to spend a lot of time with the players, explaining to them. Parents sometimes can be a distraction, but you'd like to think that the parents want to do the right thing as well. And this is all, I think, part of the process. Coping with disappointment. You've been left out. You haven't made the squad. How do you deal with that? What's your reaction? You're on the bench. If you're lucky, you're on the bench. Do you throw a strop? Do you get upset? How are you going to deal with that when it's time for you to get on the pitch? Are you going to be in the right frame of mind? Don't believe the hype. I think there's a song there somewhere. really, it's very, very easy at a young age to get carried away with, you've played your first game for your club or your national team. The money's flowing in. Suddenly you seem to be the best looking guy or girl in the building. Whereas 6 months ago, no one was giving you the time of day. Why? Because you're now in a position where people want to make off of you. They want to use that. So again, we need to be explaining to the players consistently, how do we do this? How do we avoid this? Okay, 21 years, it's playing to win. I would argue that from 17 to 21, it's playing to win. Yes, we're still developing. We're still developing. Would you put development before winning at this age group? I'm thinking most coaches would say, well, you know, we need to win. Now, I've had the opportunity to manage national teams and quite a few club teams. And I would say to our youth guys, I don't care if you win or lose all of your games. Your job is to produce players for the first team. You are an academy coach. Give them the information, give them the help on and off the pitch to help them be my first team, because the first team is the business end. So usually when I sign a contract with a club or an association, once the ink is dry and it's stamped and it's official, my first port of call will be down to the academy. And I will go down there and say, what do you have for me? Because I'm interested in what you have. First, I'm interested from a personal point of view, because if there are any little diamonds in there, why can't I put them in the first team? Old enough, good enough, old enough. Okay. But the academy has to be doing the right things. And it will be development above winning all day long from a club perspective. Okay. Some players were not going to be good enough for us. Guess what? Learn them, sell them. That's why we're doing this. We're not doing this for charity. The community stuff ends around 13, 14, let's say 15. It's community, friends, having fun, lovely. But then at 15, 16, there is a separation. Is he going or is he not? If he is, then yes, we're going to work with him. And now it's about winning. Now it's about your attitude. Now it's about mental toughness, off-field distractions. Before that, it's fun, enjoyment. Yes, maybe we could be, let's see, let's help. But when it comes to 15, 16, you're thinking now, or you should be thinking now, my first target, MLS. My second target, full scholarship, half scholarship, okay? Because in the United States, you have this, and for me, it's a distraction. If it was up to me, 16, 17, straight into the club. I don't want the university, I don't want the college. I know most of you are gonna say, no, this is against our standards. That's just me. Why? Because the time that they play, and some of you will correct me afterwards, 4 years in uni equals about a year worth of football. They're not allowed to play for any other clubs, if I'm not mistaken. So in 4 years, the players had 1 year worth of football, because the seasons are what? Starts September, finishes December, if you make the playoffs. And then, yes, you're going to say we got training, we have a little five-a-side, a little, not the same. The bad habits that are learned at uni will take 2 years to get rid of at pro level. And by that time, you are 23 years old, and guess what? You're not a young player anymore. You should have had 300 games by now, but you've only had 100 games or 50 games. And how many of the college games are super competitive? I was at Queensborough Community College once upon a time. We played, I think it was 16 games, and we went to the playoffs. And then what? So I left. I wanted to play all the time. Now, I was fortunate enough to go to Philadelphia Union a couple of years ago. Great club, very good ideas. Head of education, of course, is, I can't remember her name, but she's Indian, of course. And they are doing what's happening in England now on a regular basis, where the player's not going to school, the school's going to the player, and that's done at the club. Okay. And I said to them, yeah, this is great. I would go one step further. And she said, well, what's that, Stephen? I said, well, how come we can't do the universities at the club so that the kids can get their degree? Because you know what? We train football 2 hours a day. Maybe we come back for video. Maybe we have an extra session. Let's say the worst case scenario, 5 hours you're at the club. There's time for you to do your degree learning if it's done at the club. I think to go to the university and the travel and all the rest of it, then it becomes a thing. But I just hope you understand how I'm trying to say it. There's a way around this. So, playing to win, consistency, something we don't get from the young players. And it's okay. One day they're good, the next day they're bad, the following day they're terrible. What's causing that? Problems at home, somebody's bullying them, they don't like the coach is not getting the best out of them. There's 101 things, and these are things that we really, really need to be careful and make sure that we nip it in the bud. Fulfilling expectations. Parents, my dad's going to be proud, or the coach. These are big times for the players. Loss of form, left out of the team. Success. Success has its own problems. Everyone wants to be your mate. Everyone wants to buy you a beer. Don't do it. So this basically is, you'll see in the top left-hand corner where we have the academy, school, family, friends. Lovely. Down here, 15, 16, it's all about development. It's all about improvement. It's all about helping the child, male or female, get to where they want to be. They're not all going to go to the first team. They're not all going to go to scholarships, but they should all have fun in the process. And this is my, how I see this. So you have to see the reserve team there, the youth football. I like to make it so that there is a clear pathway for the kids in the academy to the first team. How do I do that? I go to the academy. I spend time with the academy coaches. I coach the academy coaches. Indian national team, under 17, I have physically coached the Indian under 17. I have physically coached the women's national team. Why? Because I have the interest to do that. You know what happens when you, the head coach, go down to the academy and you're calling over and you say, hey, Paula, well played. I saw that. How is that girl going to feel? Or the coach has a good session and you go down and say, Bill, that was fantastic. I really like the way you did that. Super, in control, pulled out the points. Brilliant. How is Bill, the coach, going to feel? Okay. Now this, excuse the diagrams, but this is how I see it. Okay. At Bournemouth, once upon a time, we had 200, 250, maybe 300 players from under 6s up to under 15s, under 16s. Every year, we need to make a decision. Under 9s, under 8s, under 10s, there's no decision to make. If they want to continue, they will continue. Under 12s, now it starts to get a little bit, players start to separate good players, bad players, not so good, not so bad. And you start to see a little shift. Then you got the other issue of some people, we don't want to play with him because he's not very good. And that's also something that we have to deal with. But then it starts to go, you see yellow is under 16. And all of these kids are in this little boiling pot. And eventually they will pop out the top. As you can see, the pros, 2%. 2% that year, we gave from the under 16, from the under 15, 16s, I think 6 players went to the under 17s. Only 2 made it to the first team. Didn't play in the first team, made it to the first team. One was released, the other played, and then he went and became semi-professional. So this is the for me the process. I like the teams to have the same sort of philosophy, the same sort of system from top to bottom. The youth coach, if you are listening, you have the most important job in football. And don't let anybody tell you anything else. You don't hook the player, we don't have players. It's okay for me, I have players to select at the top end. But if you are not doing your job at the bottom end, the most important end, we don't have those players. So if I was to pose a question to you guys and say, how many players have the US produced at world-class level? When I say world-class level, I mean a team that would take him, any team that would take this particular player. You've had some very good players. Do you have a world-class player? Have you had a world-class player? I think you might have one now. But he left the United States when he was 14. So do you see where I'm going? Okay, so if we do a better job, if we focus on development more than winning, the talent in the United States is unbelievable. More kids are playing soccer in the US than any other country in the world, bar none. Your national teams normally get to the 16, under 20, under 19, under 17, normally. So the talent is there. What happens to them? Why is that not taken on? Why is the senior team not getting to the World Cup, not getting out of the groups? The ability, the talent, the resources, man, you guys got everything. You really do. But I think our focus is more on winning above development. It's my humble opinion. Again, we will speak afterwards. So there are always the late developers. Jamie Vardy. Remember him? He only won the Premier League at, I don't know, he's about 38 years old. Maybe not. But Jamie Vardy wasn't signed, was at 16 and was released at 16 years old. At 16. Ian Wright didn't score, well, he signed for Palace in 85, 3 months short of his 22nd birthday. So there are no bad players at grassroots or even youth level. Just bad coaches. You're not teaching them what they need to be taught. You're not getting through to them. Didier Drogba. Okay, now who would have thought? 21, he became a professional. Foden, who you saw in the video and scored one of the goals, 2 of the goals, he was 16 when he turned professional. 16. And he was one of the lads on 30 grand a week at 16. Now, how do you justify that? Cannot. Cannot. But this is the world we are in at the moment, and he needs to deal with that. These are the first steps. Now, first steps, this is some of my teams, and the players featured are 21, 22, 19, 18. So I thought you might like to see this. We are in blue. This boy on the ball now is 17 and a few days. This is an international game, senior international. This is a senior international, but the guy who started the attack was 18. Watch the pass. One of the best passes I have ever seen. Same kid again. 17 and some days. Just a little taste. Now, here's what we're all looking for. And I know where to find him or her. He needs to be tactically sound, physically strong, mentally tough, and technically sound. That's it. You find one of those, give us a call. I can help him out. 3 important factors. Organization, and you guessed it, organization. Organize your sessions, organize your players, organize yourself, organize the pitch, organize the fixtures, organize the doctor, organize insurance, organize. Better coaches equals better players. We must continue to teach our players, not train them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. Don is still muted.
Unmuted now. Can you stop and pass me back the hosting? So, Stephen, that was wonderful. I will say the NPSL in the version we are has a classic summer schedule where our role is to really give some of those extra games to the university players. Okay.
Super.
So I understand where you're at, but this allows them to continue their status and get more games under their belt and get a different level of coaching. So thank you. Let me start with our head coach, Chibza. Chibza, did you have any questions for Stephen?
So I'm going to chime in here. Chibs is actually currently taking care of, I think, his 1-year-old, but he did send me some. He sent me some questions for Stephen. So I'll start, Stephen, with this one from Coach Chibs. And by the way, if you don't know Chibs,
I've researched him.
Oh yeah. So you U18
Yeah.
Ghanaian player. His brother's on the senior national team. Now coaching the University
Twice.
of Delaware. Yeah, and coaching with us. And so one of his questions was, how can you ensure that kids with different technical abilities all continue to develop within a team setting?
Okay. I think once you're obviously you're working with them on a daily basis, and there are always going to be some kids who get it quicker than others. What do we do about the ones who are a little advanced? Some people will pull them aside and make them train by themselves. But I think that's the complete opposite. We should separate those players and put them in with the players who are not so good, okay, to help them coach the other players, if that makes sense. Of course, you can keep them back after practice by themselves and expand on that. You can also make the sessions different for different groups. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to chime in with a question of my own now. So when we talk about like program building, right? Like you talk, obviously our men's national team missed out on the World Cup in 2018. I remember a few years back, I had read a pretty long expose on how Belgium had sort of revitalized their entire system, right? They're a small country that is now like a soccer powerhouse. And one of the things I thought was interesting was that I think up until, I don't know, maybe like 10 years old, they're not even playing with goals, right? So they're not even trying to score. They're passing. They're not allowed to pass more than 10 yards or something like that. No long passes. They're not playing with goals. So I was just kind of curious as to how you felt about that and how that kind of fit in with your philosophy of teaching the younger kids how to play the game.
Okay. Look, Belgium went back quite a few years ago. I will bring you a more recent Iceland.
Mhm.
Iceland is a population of what, 300, 400,000. Okay. They've been to the World Cup. They've been to the Euros. They drew with Argentina at the World Cup. How is that possible? How is it possible? Well, because they decided that Spain were your perennial chokers, 16, 8. And then they decided to change their approach to youth football. Okay, they put a system in place. They have that's a whole other presentation. I have that presentation actually. Jimenez, who did that through FIFA. But so what the Icelandic players group did, same as Belgium, similar to Belgium, they focused on the development technique, quick play in and around the box, quick play in the game. But you can't do that if there's no development. And then what they were doing, 16, get them out, get them out of Belgium. And you see Hazard, Chelsea, went to Chelsea when he was what, 16, 17. Lots of these players were farmed out to the bigger sides in Europe to get that experience, to get the quality, the competition, I would say. Okay, it's happening all over the world. And you talk about your coach, his brother went from his academy to Sassuolo Academy in Italy. He would have been 16, 17. Okay, why? Because he's gonna get a different level of competition, a different level of coaching, and that's it. So you have quite a decent league in the MLS. It's not a league that people don't want to come to play. It's not a league that people don't want to come to coach. They do. It's competitive. So you have the league. The problem is from the youth before they become professionals. This is where that we lose a little bit, and that's why Pulisic left at 15, 14, whatever it was, to get a better level of coaching, to get a better level of competition. But as I said, I apologize for saying this, I just think that too many academies, it's all about winning. And I've had this discussion before, and it would be, well, we have 3,000 kids in our academy because we are a winning academy. Okay, well, how many did you send to the pros? Well, we don't care about that. Or how many did you get scholarships? Well, we don't care about that. So the parents in the US, they won 25 and what is that? Oh, they went to the playoffs. They went to the national finals. Okay. What do you want? You want development or do you want to win? If you want to win at young age, the results you can see. I all of my licenses in the US. So I understand. I lived there for 10 years. I understand. But I'm saying to you, you have good coaches in the United States. You have good players, good facilities, good everything. Quality, not quantity. Sorry.
No, fine. So I did elevate Socrates, and I believe Socrates is the head coach of the women's team at Jefferson University.
Okay.
And I do believe he is an Aussie, even though his name might imply something different. So Socrates, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a question.
You're going to ask it in Greek or in English?
Tikanis. I can do both.
I love it.
But I noticed the style of football that your teams played in India. It was really exciting to watch, and that's what that's what I'm all about. Because if I'm going to be out there on the field, watching or training, I like to see exciting football. So my question is, do you have a process, or how do you decide what style of philosophy or style of football you want your clubs or teams to play? And when you're going to a club or a team and they don't play that style, what are some of the challenges that you come across with players?
That's a really good question. Okay. I like winning. Okay. And I like to be attacking. I like to be forward thinking. I like to put people on the back foot. I'm not going to wait for you to throw the first punch. Let's put it that way.
Right.
But in order to do that, you have to have you yourself a mindset. Okay. You also need to have the players to do that. Okay, that's very, very important. And I don't mean aggressive where we're running around kicking people. I mean in a positive way. Everywhere I've been, I have been able to bring my philosophy. I haven't been told we don't want that. You know why? Because as you said, from a 2-minute clip, that's how I play. If you if I were to show you 6 games from 6 different people, you would know which team was mine.
Okay.
Because that's how we play. So obviously, you go to certain clubs and they play a system which is not your system. The chances are they're not going to hire you, because if they've done their homework, this guy doesn't play our system, he doesn't use that system, no point bringing him here and asking him to change. Okay. When you're with a national team, I decide the system and I will decide the players that fit the system. So in India, for example, we had some players who were very good, but they could not fit, not in the system, but they couldn't do the job that I needed them to do in the system. And so they may be better than the player who's there, but the player who is there fits the system and does the job that I need him to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like, yeah, and that comes from the skills that are required, or the player actions that are required to fit your style. So, you know, and the reason why I say that, because I see coaches that will go to a club, and maybe that club was playing a long ball game,
Mm-hmm.
and most players at the professional level, they have a good first touch, they have good decision making, they can play a forward pass, but maybe the previous coach didn't give them the courage or didn't tell them to be bold enough. And do you think by giving the players the courage and and asking them to be bold and brave, and could that help players adjust to your system?
Yeah, again, another good question. Look, let's say I walk into your women's team.
Yep.
Okay. You're stepping aside for a bit and I'm going to come in. Okay. I'm going to obviously have seen what they've done before, seen the type of girl that you have, the type of athlete that you have. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to play a little 11 versus 11. And I'm not going to say a word. I'm just going to watch. And I'm going to watch the girls and I'm going to see who's that nasty little girl who keeps sticking her elbow in. Who's that other one who's quite quick? And you build up a little picture, and then you say, okay, we'll do some other things. Then the next day we'll do a training session, and it will be a training session where I may be trying to see if they can do what I need them to do. And you can find that out in the training sessions. So we want the players to be positive. We want them always to be positive. We don't want anyone's head down. It happens. They need to deal with that side of the game. But I spend a lot of time talking with the players. What do you want? What do you want from this? What do you want from me? My attitude, Socrates, is this. If you're a coach or a player and you want, I can make you better. That's my attitude. If you don't have the attitude that you want to get better or you want to learn, then I'm not your guy. You're not going to last very long with me. You got to want to be better. You got to want to be as good as you possibly can. And I will help you. That's my attitude. I will help you. That's why I'm here. I teach people how to play football. I'm not a rocket scientist. I don't save lives. Okay. I teach people how to play football. And that's it. And so if we are not giving them, empowering them to do things, then what are we doing? Might as well stay home.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephen.
My pleasure.
Thank
It
you.
looks like we have Elliot Johnson with his hand raised, and we have a question down in the chat as well.
Am I answering this or are you going to read it?
So so the question in the chat that I'm seeing is, what are the most important characteristics of a center back in your style?
Kick the hell out of the guy you're marking. Beat him to death. Don't let him touch the ball. Take him out of your pocket after the game. Okay. What are the characteristics? Obviously, it's a difficult position to play because for a lot of the time you're marking one or covering player depending on the system that you play. But obviously, I need them to be good in the air, be able to ping a ball, hit a pass. Should he be quick? Preferably in an ideal world, but if you remember, Per Mertesacker must have been the slowest man in football for a long time, but he never ever exposed in a 1v1, or if he has, I haven't seen it. And why? Because he was so clever in his positional play, and he made sure that he had people around him that could go and do that, should the case may be. So, yeah, look, I think we could write 20 different things for a centre-back. Want him to be a leader, want him to be good in the air, want him to be able to pass. I want him to be able to command. So there's what are you talking technically, mentally? There's so many things, but I'd like him to be good.
We also have Elliot, who actually is one of the leaders on First Aid FC. Unfortunately, we didn't get to make our debut this year. But Elliot, how are you doing, and what's your question for Stephen?
I'm all good, thanks. How are we doing, guys? Stephen,
Good.
Don. Dave.
Hi, Elliot. Thanks for coming on.
No, thank you very much for your time. I'm actually, it's 11:15 here in England, so it's nearly my bedtime. So I've stayed up to get this question out.
Love it. 1:15 here in Cyprus, my friend.
You beat me. I really liked your idea about when you were saying you were at Bournemouth and you had players playing in different positions for 3 months at a time.
Yes.
At what age do you think you should really pinpoint a position for a player to be? Because I've always been quite a versatile player. I'm naturally a central defender, but can play both left back or right back. And I feel like that's massively benefited me in my career, being, versatile and having different strings to my bow. And since I've returned back to England, I've been doing some coaching, and I've even realised that even at the under 18 level that I've sort of been working at, there are some kids that aren't fully confident on one position that they think they are the best at,
Yes.
So I sort of feel like across all levels, there are boys that maybe aren't sure about their best position, but I just wanted to know your opinion on when you feel like is a good age to feel like, right, I really want to nail down one position.
Okay, really good question, Elliot. What we did was from the age of 13 to 15, because they're playing 11v11 now, we would rotate the players. So we would say, okay, Elliot, you're a left back. We're going to play you in a back four, the left centre half. And we'll give you 6 games there. Okay. And we'll see how you do. Then we might say to you, Elliot, you're not slow. We're going to play you left-sided midfield. 6 games, 8 games, 10 games. We're not going to put you at right back because you're left-footed. You can play right back or left back if you're competent with the right foot, but we're not going to put you in a situation to make you uncomfortable. We're going to put you in a situation where we think you can add value. Okay. And I don't think we do that enough back home. I'm a centre half. I'm staying centre half.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm 6'5". I need to be a centre half. Well, no, you could be a defensive midfield player if you're that way inclined, or you could be a centre forward. You know, it's the idea is to give them a holistic view of the game. Okay, by the time they're 15, they're gravitating. We might not be moving them around so much when they're 15, especially with the year coming where we need to make a decision on, is Elliot going into the scholar program? Yes, Elliot's going in. Why is he going there? What? Good height, left-footed, and they're a rarity. Can play stopper, can play left back, play him as a wing back if we want. So there's 3 positions. You don't need to have more than that. We don't expect you to play. Personally, I started out as left back at school. Okay, I ended up from left back as centre forward. But my best position, the position that I loved playing, was defensive midfield player, because I like to kick people when I could catch them. But that didn't come from coaches putting me in. I played left back, but I kept going up. I scored 9 goals from a left back situation, so they played me up front. I was not technically gifted. My nickname was Jordan, after Joe Jordan, the legend, only because I was smashing people left and right, and I wasn't technically gifted, but I would run all day, I would fight all day, I would outwork you in training, and where to put me, they ended up number 6, and I was happy as. Okay, so by moving the players around, they have for me, a better understanding of the game.
Yeah,
So
I think that's a great point you've made there, and I totally agree with you. Because, so would you say that it's more based on the qualities of the player? So you see someone like James Milner, he's played virtually everywhere along the pitch. He's played up front for Man City, all along the midfield, and at both fullback for Liverpool. So like, he obviously has an array of qualities that justify him playing in multiple different positions, and that's at the top level.
Right, but and I agree, but I bet you any money you like, Elliot, that when he was a youth player, he was being moved around.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I would say, look, you're not comfortable playing centre forward. I'm not going to put you as a centre forward. So we're gonna say to the child, the player, we're thinking about playing you up there for 6 games. See how it goes.
Yeah.
The kid goes, oh, this is great. I didn't realize that. Of course, you need to explain his role, his job, and then you need to allow for that. If he doesn't have a good game, his first game's no good, you say, oh no, it's a failure. No, you got to give him time. And as I said before, I think we rush to judge the kids so quickly. We make opinions just like that, and we should be a little bit more creative. And I think you have benefited from playing different positions as a kid growing up. I know I did. And the point you made with James Milner is absolutely spot on.
Elliot,
Thanks a lot, Stephen. Thank you, guys.
Elliot, great to hear from you. And just for the record, the fact we don't expect you here to Delaware Food Drive, but we know that you can help folks in the UK too. We expect you to do your share. We have one more question from Ajit, and then I think, David, you have one more from Chibza.
Yeah, one more from Coach, and then I think we're good. So Ajit can go, though. Ajit, welcome. You're currently muted if you want to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now, David? Yeah. Hi, Stephen. Great presentation. I'm from Vancouver.
Thank you, Ajit.
I think one of the things personally, and I just want your opinion, the emphasis on relationships, like a right back getting the ball. What's his relationship, like midfielder, the right sided centre half, the goalie? We don't work enough on those areas in our training sessions, game related activities, as I like to call them, not drills. Once that relationship expanding from roles and responsibilities, and we're doing a little bit of work like you in India, but that was missing there. So I like to break the field down to be 10 segments, 4 segments. What are the players involved in that area? So what's the emphasis on that from your level?
Okay, so we're talking about the right back. His relationship with, well, who does he touch immediately? Goalkeeper, right-sided centre half, right-sided midfield player, nearest centre midfield, and dare I say the striker on that side.
Yep.
Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Right. So I would prefer that my centre half didn't go and take the ball outside the 6-yard box, which seems to be the trend, and let's play out the back while there's 2 opponents standing in front of you. I don't like that. So I'm going to say to you, goalkeeper has the ball. He passes to the centre half. Shall we say the centre half will then pass to the right fullback, who is up but out wide. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
Okay. So what am I going to say to the fullback? Okay. First thing I'm going to say to him is, look at your body shape. Don't be looking at the goalkeeper, or don't be looking at the centre half. Be in a half-turn position so that you can receive the ball on your right foot, and your first touch is up and out. So why do we do that? So that his first touch is up and out means he has time to pick his head up and look. Okay. So then I say to him, I'm going to give you 4 choices. You decide in the game, and this will be the same thing for the left back. You decide what happens, but these are the choices that you have. Receive the ball on the outside foot, turn up, have a look. Is the striker making the run between their left back and their stopper? Are you with me so far?
Yep.
Okay. If the striker has made the run, I want the ball to go there. That's your first choice. For me. His second choice will be into the midfield player. Striker doesn't make the run. The third choice would be for him to run with the ball. If he has the space, let him go. He might do that. That might even be his first choice. If there's no one in front of him, let him carry the ball. So I would be working with the centre forward, both of the midfield players in the middle, because they will interchange and come in. One will come in, the other one will spin out. So it will be goalkeeper to the right back, right back. The right back has also the right midfield player. But for me, the first choice is, can he get it into the feet of the striker? Can he go wide to the midfield player? Can he go into the centre midfield player? Is he being pressed? If he's being pressed and he has no other option, put it behind their left back. Turn them around and squeeze them up.
Yeah.
I mean, our job is to give the player the options. So a friend of mine, where we were doing a session a few years ago, and he said, why don't you tell the left back when he gets the ball, he has to do this?
No.
I said to him, because he must decide based on what he sees. It's not going to be possible for him to come inside every time. Maybe there is no space. Maybe there is 2 men. Maybe. We'll give him the choices and hope that he makes the right decision. And if he doesn't, we'll bring him in and point it out. Hey, the striker made the run, get it into his feet. If he didn't make the run, check down. It's like a quarterback. You're not going to throw the ball deep if no one's running there. Does that help you anyway?
Yes, Stephen, I understand what you're saying. My question was more, that's what we're not teaching the players at youth level, I feel. We're just saying is play A, B, C. When I get them at university, not that I'm coaching, I'm probably a little bit older than you, but is...
I'm only 40, so how old are you?
I won't be telling. Over a pint.
Okay.
Key is, given those options, creating decision-making, creativity, in every part of the field, as opposed to say, left back, ping it up. No, that's not good enough. Let them make the errors to learn to move forward, but do it in small, isolated groups. As you said, you affected 4 or 5 players. The last resort, I guess, could have been, can't go forward, can't go to the midfielder. We might need to go back and around. But I think we need to emphasize more at the youth level that these roles within relationships with decision-making, possibly more than 1, 2, 3, 4 options. Let them make the decisions. That was just my point. Thank you.
You're Ajit, you're absolutely correct. But you know how much time that takes? And we don't want to spend time doing that. We want 7v7, 8v8, up it goes. Okay, done. And then people call that coaching. And then they wonder why they don't produce players. You need to spend time. We video every session we do.
Yeah.
And the video sessions are not necessarily so that we can point out the mistakes of the players that we're doing on the pitch. It's also the coach.
Yes.
So I as I said before, I did all my licenses. Okay. I can tell you one guy passed his A license that he couldn't make his dog sit down. Okay, that's how bad he was. And he rang me and said, you know, I passed. And I went, wow, really? He says, yeah, I'm so excited. I'm like, come on, man. He was terrible. And this is what I'm saying. At that time, we were trying to produce a lot of coaches so that we had competent people out there coaching the kids. But guess what? Some of them weren't so good. And that then has a knock-on effect to players, because that guy will go and be a bad coach and badly coach the players. And we'll have lost a few hundred kids because of that. So it's very important that we spend the time on the finer details if we want the players to be successful. And I really liked your question.
Thank you, Steve. Good luck in your search for your new job. I'm sure it comes.
It can't come soon enough.
Thanks, Ajit.
Vancouver's nice.
Yeah.
So one more question from Coach Chibza. When teaching skill acquisition, would you prefer a constraint learning or isolated practice?
Ask him, what is the difference between a skill and a technique?
Oh, let's see what he says. You may have to answer it yourself.
Okay. Well, a technique is when you perform a certain function, a pass, receiving the ball on your chest, controlling the ball with your thigh. When does that become a skill? See, there are coaches who have licenses who don't know this, believe it or not. And I'm not talking in the US. There are coaches out there. The difference is it becomes a skill when you are under pressure. What kind of pressure? Pressure of space, pressure of time. The weather can be pressure. The pitch can be a pressure. By the way, your opponent is pressure. So when you can perform the technique under pressure, it then becomes a skill. When people say he's got loads of skills, no, he doesn't have loads of skills. He has loads of techniques. Show me him controlling the ball with me standing behind him with my elbow in his ribs. That becomes a skill because he's under pressure. It can be time, it can be distance. So a pressure drill for, let's say, a decent group of 10-year-olds. We make a 5x5 yard box, okay? And we say to them, with the ball, run to the end of the line and come back in 5 seconds. Pressure or no pressure? It's pressure.
Time pressure, right?
Time pressure. Maybe we say to them, we're going to put you in a 15x15 with the ball, go to all four corners as quick as you can. Pressure, time, space. Maybe it's hot outside. Pressure when you're standing in front of 60,000 people and they're screaming for your blood and you're going to play a game. Pressure, absolutely. This is pressure in football. So the difference between skill and pressure. So now ask me the rest of this question.
Okay.
The question?
When teaching skill acquisition, would you prefer a constraint learning or isolated practice?
I answered you.
Not isolated, it sounds like.
Well, when it's technical,
Mhm.
when it's
Has to be
technical,
under pressure.
isolation, how do we know he's got it, Dave? How do we know?
Mhm.
How do you know if you got it? You do a little bit more. You make it a little bit harder, a little bit harder, a little bit harder. Okay? And the harder it gets, the better the technique will become. The technique then becomes a skill because you're under pressure. How does a 16-year-old deal with playing in those highlights that you saw? There were 70,000 people in that stadium. They're 16, 15, some of them. How do you deal with that? They have dealt with it. They have been in situations. So I think that answers the coach's question.
All right.
Well, Stephen and everybody that's over in Europe and other parts, thank you for staying up late. And we thank you for investing the time and sharing your experience, strength, and knowledge with all of us. And we hope we're going to make you proud. Thank you again very much. And thank you to everyone for attending. All right. I owe you one, Stephen. Maybe two.
Nice to meet you, David. Thanks for having me.
Stephen.
And, look forward to speaking with you again soon.
You got it. Thanks.
Take care. Bye.